Your elected officials, to have an opportunity to ask them questions. I should not be someone you see on television. I should be right here among the people. It's an honor to represent you. For me, there's no one more important than our senior citizens. And there's nothing more important than defending the programs that matter most to our seniors: Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. When I think of a program like Social Security and Medicare, it's not a gift that the government has given you. It is a program that each and every one of you have paid into your whole lives. Right? All of you have a right to Social Security. You have a right to Medicare. And your elected officials have a responsibility to defend your right to these programs to which you have contributed your whole life. And just as important as Medicare is Medicaid, for the lowest income, but it's long-term care insurance. Right? Nursing homes, long-term care facilities like Riverspring receive much of their funding from Medicaid. And we know that Medicaid, but there's bad news, Medicaid has been under assault. Donald Trump, congressional Republicans, cut Medicaid by $700 billion. And SNAP food assistance by $300 billion. And so our goal is to win back the majority and make Hakeem Jeffries the next Speaker of the House and restore Medicaid to full funding. Because the majority of Medicaid dollars actually go toward our seniors, for those with disabilities, for those with chronic illness, for those in greatest need. It goes where it belongs. But it's not enough to expand Medicaid. We have to ensure that mission-driven organizations like Riverspring are receiving their fair share of Medicaid funding. Because for too long, the federal government has been underfunding non-for-profit providers of long-term care. Thankfully, Riverspring is thriving and surviving, but there are many long-term care providers that have gone out of business. And who's replacing them? It's Wall Street. It's private equity. And I don't know about you, but I want the care of our senior citizens not to be in the hands of Wall Street. Resources right here to the seniors of Riverspring. I'm proud to be your congressman. If you will have me back, I'll come back as often as you want me. Obviously, public safety matters. I'm proud that in the latest budget, we were able to secure more than $1 billion for security cameras for the NYPD. It's important that the NYPD has the resources it needs to ensure that all of us are safe and feel safe in our homes and our communities. And the NYPD just recently announced that the Bronx is going to receive an additional 200 police officers, which is urgently needed.
Yes.
And we're making progress because in 2025, we had 1,000 fewer shootings in New York City than we did 5 years ago. So the mission is not accomplished, but we're making progress. So with that said, I'm happy to take whatever questions you have. If there are any hard questions, I might have my staff here.
This is going to be a little bit off the message. The new wing of Mandani, OAC, etc. is taking power, and they want the established leadership to step aside. And it makes sense in a certain extent. But who is to counter the Democratic Party, this extreme group of people, if the moderates are going to step aside?
Thank you for starting with the easy question. The controversial question. Look, the Democratic Party is a broad coalition that ranges from the Squad to the Blue Dogs or conservative Democrats, many of them in the South and the Midwest. But I'm not sure if I agree with the premise of the question that the moderates are stepping aside. The leader of the House Democratic Caucus is Hakeem Jeffries, who is left of center in his politics. Like, he's poised to become the next Speaker of the House. He is the leader of our caucus. He's going to be the most powerful legislator in the world. And he's going to be on the front lines of defending our democracy against Donald Trump. So I feel like there are people in the center who are not stepping back, but are stepping forward and playing a leadership role in the world. The reason people think that the center is stepping back is there are a few people in the party who get more attention than everywhere else. But that's misleading. Most of the work of governing happens behind the scenes, and it's people in the center who are making it all happen.
Hello, Mr. Torres, and thank you for listening.
Of course.
Medicaid is very important to me because I gave birth. 11 years ago, I had a pulmonary embolism, and luckily for me, a month before, I had applied to what they call Obamacare, and I hadn't applied to it because of veterans, but I did. And my life was saved 11 years ago from this pulmonary embolism because I applied to Obamacare. I went back to work after gave birth and doing all those things. And I'm here now because of the time I got blood clots in my leg. So I went to the hospital, was able to get help with that, and found out I had cervical cancer too, and get help with that. So I think Medicaid is very important, and please keep fighting for it.
There's nothing more important than extending our healthcare programs, whether it's Medicare or Medicaid or the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare. Like we've been fighting to extend the healthcare tax credits to keep the Affordable Care Act afloat. We were able to pass legislation in the House and we're waiting for the Senate to take action. And then on Medicaid, there's no congressional district that depends more heavily on Medicaid than my congressional district. In my district, more than 70% of children are covered by Medicaid. More than 80% of nursing home residents, more than 90% of baby deliveries. And it's deeply personal to me because when I was a kid, we frequently went to the hospital because of asthma attacks. It was Medicaid that covered me every time. So I would not be where I am were it not for Medicaid and the stability it gave me and my family. So fighting for Medicaid is not political, it's personal to me and it's personal to the people of Bronx. Yeah, you never know, right? It's such a, we're all human, and we go all one tragedy away from losing everything. Like you can do everything right in your life, and lose your job, become seriously ill, and Medicaid is the safety net that will catch you when you do. And we need to preserve it. I think it depends on the policy. Because to be the mayor of New York is the hardest job second only to the president. And it's even more challenging than the presidency in one sense. But when you're president, there's so much you can do on your own. You know how to live. When you're the mayor, you have to answer to the New York City Council. You have to answer to the New York State Legislature. You have to answer to the governor. And you have to answer to the federal government. Like you are subject to layers and layers. So take free buses. In order for him to implement free buses, the MTA is a state agency. He needs the buy-in of the MTA. So if the MTA is against it, it complicates his ability to get it done. On child care, I feel like he will have success because the governor is on board. So the governor and the mayor have announced a plan for expanding child care in the Bronx and throughout the state. And that to me is the right policy. cost of childcare is spiraling out of control. Since 2000, the cost of childcare has risen by 160%. And the Bronx actually pays the most for childcare as a percentage of income. The federal government says that you should pay no more than 7% of your income. There are families in the Bronx that pay half their income on childcare. And so one thing that I've done as a congressman is we were able to secure about $52 million to open 4 new childcare centers in the Bronx. And the governor and the mayor are hard at work making that a reality throughout the city and throughout the state. So I think his vision for universal childcare is one that I share, because there are families, working class families, who are being priced out of New York. You know, since 2019, our public school system has lost 100,000 students, 10% of its population. We take the population of young black people from 2010 to 2020, it fell by 20%. So there are people who are fleeing New York because it's become dangerously unaffordable for families. And we have to make New York work for families. We have to be a city where families can afford to live. So I think my answer, I think Mayor Mamdani will be no different than any other mayor. He'll deliver on some of his promises, but will fall short on others.
Congressman Torres, want to snap SNAP.
Food assistance.
And I think that Congress should put forth a bill to do away with guns, with handguns, for the American public, because they used only to shoot someone. You know, we had all these school shootings and so on. It's terrible. It's really terrible.
Yes, so unfortunately, you know, Congress does not have the authority to ban guns completely because of the Second Amendment, but we should do more to regulate them. Like, every gun should be registered and have a serial number. Every gun owner should be licensed. Every gun sale should be subject to a background check. And I'm particularly concerned because if you know, the United States is the only high-income country that has an epidemic of mass shootings. And it's not only because of mental illness. Every society has mental illness. It's not because of a culture of violence. Every society has violence. It's because we have too many guns and we have too few regulation of those guns. And one thing that worries me is now it's become possible to manufacture guns in the home, through 3D printers. So not only are more people carrying guns than ever before, but 3D printing is literally turning homes into gun manufacturing. And historically, the leading cause of death among adolescents, among teenagers, has been automobile accidents. Today it's gun violence. So instead of children burying their parents, we increasingly live in a world where parents are burying their children. And so I'm someone who's fighting for greater regulation of our guns, but I've also been supportive of a program known as Cure Violence. So one thing we've come to recognize is that much of our gun violence is coming from gangs, and gangs of young people. Right? There are young people who might not go to school, who might not go to work, whose only existence is life on the streets. And if you're not finding belonging and meaning in your life in the right places, you're going to find it in the wrong places. You're going to find it in a gang. And so the Cure Violence program actually recruits former gang members to serve as credible messengers and has them reach out to these young people and tell these young people, don't make the same mistake that I did. You're one bullet away from spending the rest of your life in prison. And that kind of face-to-face communication, that kind of mentoring has a real impact in reducing gun violence in places like the Bronx. So we just secured about $1 million to support Cure Violence in the Bronx. Because if we can address youth violence and gang violence, it's going to address the root causes of gun violence. No. That's a dated reference.
I'm fine.
Who's the new Phil John?
Thank you.
I guess everything's on a podcast.
I don't know how people feel about it, but I think when I was mayor, 2 months on TV and around more than the previous mayor did 4 years.
I'm getting the sense people want Mount Downey here, not me. I did consider it.
Other questions?
Look, I would just say about the mayor, and it's too early to judge. We're only in the second month. So much can happen. So I'm gonna, there are issues on which I might disagree with the mayor and the governors, but I wanna give them the space to run the city and the state and then make that argument. Yeah. But I feel like, for me, it's too early to make a definitive judgment about his performance there.
Hi, I came a little late, so my questions are random. I understand you're running in a primary challenge, and I'm wondering what we as residents of Riverspring we can help you with.
I would think. Was that question planted? I would be honored to have your vote. I mean, if you believe in me as your representative, as your member of Congress, I would be honored to have your vote. But no matter how you feel about me, I just want to underscore the importance of voting. Because our democracy depends on active citizenship. A wise person once said, if you don't have a seat at the table, then you're probably in the menu. And voting is how you get a seat at the table. So I hope all of you turn out to vote in late June. I think it's June 23rd is the primary. But if you have confidence in me as your local congressman, I would be honored to have your vote. That would be a great. For me, I was born and raised in the Bronx. So for me, the Bronx is not simply the place I represent, it's the place I call home. It's part of who I am. And there's just no greater honor in my life than to represent my home. So I represent us. There are 4 members of Congress in the Bronx. I'm the only one who exclusively represents the Bronx. So I go as far south as Mount Haven, as far north as Riverdale, Woodlawn, and Wakefield, and then we were in the Florida and Belmont area. So it's an expansive South Bronx, Northeast Bronx, Northwest Bronx, Allen Parkway. So I have a district that keeps me busy. I cast it up. But Yankee Stadium, the Botanical Gardens, the Bronx Zoo.
Castle Hill Avenue. That's by the 6th train. Yep.
Do you want me to repeat that? He was asking about, he's expressing concern about global warming, and concerned that the climate is warming rapidly, and that we're not acting quickly enough to address the crisis. Look, on the global warming point, I consider climate change to be one of the greatest challenges confronting our planet, humanity. I'm a little more optimistic because the world is increasingly embracing solar energy. Solar energy, the United States is in a challenging under Donald Trump, but China is doubling down on solar panels. We see, much of Africa is embracing solar panels. Like solar, I believe that solar is emerging as the energy of the future because it's the most scalable, deployable energy source. And right. I'm optimistic that we can find technological solutions to these problems. I'm not one of those people who think the world is going to come to energy. I think solar has real potential to mitigate the impact of climate change and to make it more manageable. And look, think about, we live in a world of AI, and AI is certainly going to create challenges. But also, it could solve problems that were previously unsolvable. Like, hopefully we live in a world where you can harness the power of AI to cure cancer, to solve climate change, to address problems that might have once been unsolvable. So, I never underestimate the power of human ingenuity to solve problems. And then on the progressive, yeah, look, we just have to keep fighting. Like, throughout American history, there were challenges that seemed daunting and improbable, and we overcame them. But the reality is we need power. Like, there's only so much we can do in the minority. But we are well positioned to take back the majority of November. We are almost certainly going to win the House. We may even win the Senate. There have been a number of special elections where Trump won by double digits. Democrats are winning those districts. So something is happening, something is shifting. And I feel like once we're in the majority, we're going to be able to do more to control our agenda. We need checks and balances in Washington, D.C. You cannot have one party control and you Donald Trump. I think we're going to win. We're going to win. You heard it from me. 2 more questions. We're going to win. For me, fire safety is one of my highest priorities. The Bronx, in the past 30 years, the 4 deadliest fires in New York City have all been in the Bronx. And so our people are living in conditions. There's a major fire in the Bronx. Now, one of the issues that I'm addressing in Congress are lithium-ion batteries. So there are people who have lithium-ion batteries in their apartments which are essentially ticking time bombs. And when a lithium-ion battery malfunctions, it causes an instantaneous explosion. I've seen it bring entire building structures and reduce it to rubble. And so we actually passed legislation in the House that would set safety standards to ensure that lithium-ion batteries are manufactured properly in accordance with standards of fire safety. And we've been working with firefighters throughout the country on that legislation. So I think lithium-ion batteries probably has been a leading cause of one of the fastest growing causes of fires in New York City.
last question, I know we have a special presentation afterwards, so let me, Mr. Khan.
What is the Democratic Party going to focus on cost of living? They did a horrible job in the last couple of elections.
So we agree that we did a horrible job in the last couple of elections, as evidenced by the results of those elections. I think our singular focus is affordability, cost of living, healthcare, housing, childcare. Like that is our number one, number two, number three issue. So you're gonna, every Democrat who speaks will be speaking to almost nothing but affordability. Leader Jeffries speaks about affordability all the time. That's gonna be, when we went back to majority. And that's why we've been fighting for the extension of the healthcare tax credits, because it would make healthcare affordable for 22 million. We want to fight to reverse the cuts to SNAP so that food is more affordable. We want to fight to reverse the cuts to Medicaid so that healthcare is more affordable. Affordability is the common thread that binds everything we do. So we agree that it's the most important issue, and that's where our focus is going to be. And look, while Donald Trump is concerned about Greenland or Venezuela, we're concerned about America. There was a great sign that I came across on the subway. It says, "We don't want Greenland, we want healthcare." And I feel like that's the message we're going to deliver on behalf of the American people.
We're going to do a special presentation, but before we do that, let's just thank Congressman Ritchie Torres for who he is, what he stands for, his friendship, and his business in the area. And that's going to be part of the special ceremony presentation, so Mike.
So I have the honor of presenting a certificate of recognition in recognition of this person's compassion, dedication, and unwavering commitment to serving the Bronx's elderly community. Your work has empowered residents to raise their voices and help guide their families, and we extend our deepest gratitude for your dedicated service and the impact you make every day. Presented on February 13, 2026, to Anna Weisbrod on behalf of the United States Congress.
For truly making this a place where I never felt like I was coming to work. I felt like I was in my home. And I still do, and I always will. So thank you.
Thank you all for being part of this very special afternoon. And as Congressman Torres says, you want to say something more? This is not his last time here. It's one of his many times here. He is truly a friend of ours. I hope you feel welcome here always, and we appreciate everything you're doing for us. Yeah. You never know. Thank you.